please.
I met Sue in 1963. She and Milt came to the Wesley Foundation's youth chapel, where my husband was one of the pastors there. And one of the things that we did was talk about what it meant to be a preacher's kid, PK. And I didn't know what that meant. They were both the children of pastors, and Sue said that she, didn't always have it easy being a PK, but she had a lot of friends and all. And then we just started hanging together, and this went on for 50 years. And Adrienne Sue was pregnant with Adrienne, and we always considered Adrienne kind of like our child. And we also got to know all the others, but Sue was always just simply Sue. And I didn't have that many friends that I could say that I was that close to for 50 years. But it was because of Sue that I stayed, very close to that family. And I'm going to miss her, even though we didn't see each other every year. Sometimes we would be 4 or 5 years apart, but it was like nothing had happened. We just pick right up. And that's not usual when you lived in New Jersey and they were here in Michigan and East Lansing. So I also got Sue into social work. She would ask me about what I was doing with the poor women that I worked with. And then I heard there was a job coming up at the MSU School of Social Work. And I said, I know who can take that job. And she came and worked there in the office for a couple of years. And the next thing I know, she's got her MSW. And she's working with children and doing an outstanding thing. So we always had that in common. And when we would travel together, people would talk to me and they would talk to Sue, and Milt would say, that's because you two are social workers and everybody wants to tell you a story. And we enjoyed that so much. And that's about all I can say right now, because you gave me 30 seconds. But I think it took a little longer. But I am so glad to be here in honor of Sue and to be of comfort to Milt and the family.
I have a memory of a time when I was trying to memorize a song on the piano. I think we were up at the cabin mostly, and I was just playing the same song over and over again, probably annoying a lot of people hearing the same tune, but Sue was always interested in it, and I think her interest in whatever I was doing was often a big help in helping me overcome my often paralyzing sense of perfectionism.
I have so many memories about Sue, my grandma. I think my favorite one was every time I came out to Michigan. I would come out every summer when I was 11, 12, 13, 14, and Grandma would always take me shopping. She let me get whatever I wanted, whether that was from the girls' department or most of the time it's from the boys' department. She'd get it, she'd tell me everything looked great, and she would buy me as many Dragon t-shirts as I wanted. And that was so special to me, and I just loved it so much. And thank you so much, Grandma.
Well, one special memory I have is Carol called Sue to tell her she was going to marry me, and they were excited. And then after Carol hung up 5 minutes later, the phone called and said, "Are you sure about this guy?" And she said, "Let me talk with him. He doesn't have my approval yet." So Carol handed me the phone, and so Sue had a couple questions for me, and I guess I answered them okay, and she says, okay, I approve. And we'll have more time together. So that was very special. But whenever I would arrive at Sue and Milt's house, Sue often was the first one at the door at the top of the steps, and she always had her arms out wide open saying, Jay, it's good to see you. And that's a wonderful memory to have. And then maybe a final one was when I had never played poker before. And so it was the Powell family. It was Sue's special encouragement. I said, oh, come on, Jay, let's just try it once. And so I did. And I just think she was in just so many ways that she touched the lives of people around her. So thank you for this chance to say that.
Talk to you about the best godmother in the world, which is Sue Powell. All my life, Sue has just been the best. Always there. My sweet 16, my graduations, my summer, what was it? Not summer, but senior concerts. Always there, always loving, always smiling, always making you feel special and loved. And I just can't imagine a more perfect godmother. And so blessed to have had her for my godmother. I will always have her for my godmother. And so blessed. I'm just overwhelmed with emotion right now. But she'll always love me. She'll always be with me. And I know she's looking over me right now and smiling and just all that warmth that she's giving me right now, even though I'm not doing a very good job speaking. But anyway, so happy. She's always been there. She and Milt and my parents, just always this wonderful surprise of, oh, they're coming to your graduation. Oh, they're coming to your senior concert. Oh, they're coming for your sweet 16 party. So I am truly blessed, and Sue will always be with me, and I am so proud to be her goddaughter.
Memory I have of Sue was we were up at the cabin, and Milt walked over and offered me some peanuts, and then 5 minutes later Sue walked over and offered me peanuts. The funny thing is I can't have peanuts.
So I loved playing cards, and I learned playing euchre when I was 8. And one of the things that I learned from Sue was how to steal the deal. And I remember playing euchre with Sue once when she was the master at stealing the deal, which is a legal way to cheat for euchre. And what she would do is she would start a new topic of conversation and just gather up all of the cards, shuffle them, deal them out. And we figured it out, but if you turn over the top card, then you just have to play the hand. And being the dealer is a real advantage. So she did this 4 times in a row, and we figured it out after the second time, and we still didn't catch her because she started a new topic of conversation each time and managed to steal the deal 4 times in a row. And that was Sue.
So this is a memory of maybe 45 years ago. We were visiting, our families are good friends, and we were visiting at the Marshall Street house, and we were playing basketball in the backyard. And I remember how aggressive Sue was. She kept pushing me out of the way and making shots and knocking me down, and I just couldn't believe that it was Sue who was doing that to me. And she just was really enjoying this exchange that we were having. So why I remember that lovely Sue, who we've had so many wonderful experiences with all our lives. But when I was asked to remember something, that popped into my head.
Sue was my very best friend. We used to paint together and reminiscing, and I miss her every single day. Everything reminds me of the past, and I wish we could paint together again. Who knows? Maybe someday we will.
Well, hi, I'm Carol. I'm Sue's sister. Sue was older than me, and I always just idolized her, every part of her. And when we were kids, she was in high school, and I would sneak into her bedroom at night, and she received me, and we would lie there giggling And I think my parents really knew what was going on, but we thought we were really doing something special. So Sue's very special to me all my life.
My favorite story of Sue is Annette was about 8 months, and so I was writing my dissertation, and Sue and Milt helped sometimes by taking care of her. And so I had a diaper bag with those new diaper bags where you have different pockets, and had put diapers. And so Annette was taking a nap when we dropped her off. And Sue, when she woke up, she was looking for diapers and couldn't find diapers. So they called me and said, "Where are the diapers?" And I'm explaining which pocket they couldn't find them. So they went to the store and bought a new package of diapers. And so we then laughed about it later because of how the technologies and all the accessories come now with newborn babies and babies in general, and how it was different during their times 60 years ago, right? So I thought Milt would enjoy it. He remembers this story and tells it oftentimes. I thought he'll enjoy this.
I think I was probably about 15 years old, I think. And I was getting ready in the bathroom, which of course we had to share with all 4 of us kids. And Mom was driving us to school, and Dad was hollering at me, "Come on downstairs, your mom's ready to go. Hurry up, hurry up." And I heard my mom turn to my dad and say, "You know, Milt, she's in high school now. She needs more time in the bathroom." So that's a memory I have of my mom standing up and saying, "Let her be in the bathroom."
You know, I met Sue many years ago in Iowa City on Summit Street at Professor Kingdon's party Saturday night. And I had met Milt earlier, but meeting Sue, I knew that Milt not only had a good mind, but extremely good taste. And I will say that he and Sue proved that over decades with Joy and me. And I'm beginning to tear up thinking about those many decades from the late 1950s to the present. And I think that's a good enough introduction.
I cannot remember a time that I didn't know Sue Powell. She was my second mom, and I remember one day Cathy and Julie asked my mom, "Can we call you Joy?" And so this was in like the early 70s. But I kept calling Sue Mrs. Powell, and she took me aside and said, "You know, you could call me Sue." And so she was the first grown-up I called by her first name. And more importantly than that, she was just always there, always that second mom. Every Sunday, Sunday school, in the underground Sunday school, and camping and swimming, just throughout my childhood. She's just a really, really important person, and even until today.
I remember when we were living in southern Indiana, and Tom was working on his dissertation, and he was always on campus, and I had 2 little kids. They were age 7 and 1, and I was working part-time, and I would get so tired of my children, and not to say anything bad about them, they're wonderful children, but when my mom would come, she would sit down on the floor and play with them for hours, and I would get such a break. I was so relieved to be doing something besides paying attention to my children, that it got to the point where before my parents would come down, I get so excited about their visit that I couldn't sleep the night before. And I was like, this is worse than Christmas as a kid. I just would get so excited. But she was so good with my kids. And I am so grateful for that.
Sue and I, my husband Bruce and Milt, always camped together. And of course we brought groceries together. So we'd go into the grocery store, Sue and I, buy all the groceries, and then as we checked out, Sue, in her head, would figure out what percentage of the bill she, with her 4 children, all their guests, needed to pay for our total bill. It was very embarrassing, but she did it every single time. She was so honest and so much fun.
I don't know if anybody has told stories of driving with both Milt and Sue Powell, where often it would be Grandpa driving and Grandma navigating, we'll say. And I remember we went to Italy when I was 9 or 10, maybe older than that. And Grandpa and Grandma had taken Galen and I, and my parents were in one car and the rest of us were in the other car. And all of a sudden, driving through Florence, we got separated. This was, of course, before GPS, so all we had was a paper map in Italian, and enthusiastic driving and navigation, if not skilled in either of those, in Italy. And so I remember watching the other car disappear off into the sunset of a busy street in Tuscany and being like, well, I may see my family again, I may not. I may just have Grandpa and Grandma as my new family for the rest of forever. And we eventually found it, but it took a long time.
So I always remember my mother's amazing ability to lose a game to any child on the earth. It was always a joy to watch her lose. And her ability to lose was as tactical as any gamesmanship I've ever seen. I love you, Mom. I miss you.
Sue was an amazing grandmother. She would always show up to every single event that I was at, whether it was band, marching band, or karate. She showed up to every single belt test. She was always there as a grandmother. And surprisingly, she always let me win at every single game, even though I knew she was a card shark and could absolutely beat me. So, absolutely amazing grandmother. Thank you.
That I miss the most about Sue is every time we visited, every time we would get to Milton Sue's house from a long 10-hour drive across New York, she would always be at the top of the stairs, and she would always say, "Oh, hi there," and it was just the most welcoming start to the visit, and it happened every time. She always said it the same way, and it's just such an absence now that when we come into that house, I only hear that voice in my head instead of in my ears, and I miss that, but I'm so grateful to have had it.
So I remember going to a Christmas Eve service with my parents, and Mom and I sat next to each other, and we got up to sing a hymn, and then we sat back down, and Mom was trying to put the hymnal book back in the seats, but there was an open section, and she kept hitting the person in front of her, but she didn't realize she was doing it, and the person finally turned around. And then Mom and I couldn't stop giggling, and throughout this whole service we were trying to stop giggling, and that was one of my favorite memories, being with Mom.
I remember when I was about 9 years old, Sue was one of the first people I met when we moved to Michigan, and I just remember her warm and accepting and caring spirit. Even as a youngster, I felt valued. I felt as if I was enough, and coming from in a situation where I was adopted, I didn't always feel welcome in environments, and Sue just made me feel right at home. So that's a memory I live with on a constant basis, is the love that I have felt. And I haven't seen her in many years, and I still carry that feeling with me. So that's what I remember about Sue.
Well, I met Sue when she was my social worker at Neff Elementary in Grand Ledge. Sue was the best social worker, and the kids loved her. I loved her. She would come on Tuesdays, and I loved Tuesdays because once she came on Tuesdays, those kids that had the most problems that were going to see her were the best. They were always the best because they knew if they weren't good, they might not be able to talk with her. So I enjoyed that time with him. She was such a treasure. Thank you for being there for me, Sue.
One thing about Sue that I know is that she was really nice and really welcoming, and also she took care of me when I was a baby, and I like calling her Chicha Sue because Chicha means grandma or grandma, like the both words in Wolof.
Sue was a very kind woman, and she loved sharing her passion for art with me and Grandma Carol through Zoom during the pandemic. And you could just see her eyes light up as she saw other people appreciating her art and saw that we were inspired by her art, and she was just a lovely woman.
Sue and Milt have been part of our life for these 36, 38 years, and it's been great. Even though we live in Portland, Oregon, we travel through Minnesota and Michigan from time to time, and about 3, 4, 5 years ago, they entertained us for a meal and just to see their home. She made a wonderful home, a wonderful meal for us, and we saw the meaning of home in their place. So
And
it was
the
great.
pianos. They played
And the
pianos,
pianos, yes. So both of them played the piano. It was just a wonderful thing. So Milt, keep those piano keys going, and we'll continue to think of you and pray for you too.
Sue, there are many memories of when we got to know her in Japan in 1983 and 84. I remember baking Christmas cookies together at our place. And I also invited her to a group of ladies who taught we Americans flower arranging. And these ladies spoke English, so Sue could communicate with them too. Even though they were in Milt and Sue were in a place where there were very few foreigners, it was difficult to communicate. But this group of ladies knew English, and so Sue was very, very faithful. And then after she left Japan, she sent all of the ladies Valentine's cards. And these ladies had never gotten Valentine's cards before, and so they learned about American culture that way.